So we are in this time slot for the question and answers, and we can now do the questions and answers for our three speakers.
If anybody has any question, please unmute your phone and do it yourself. Allow me to remind you that this has been recorded. If you want to be more private, you can also use the chat box, and we will relay the question to the rest of the people.
Hello, Cecile speaking. I have a question to Yuri. So could you explain further, elaborate how you see the use of the criteria in your second use case?
Okay, thanks for the question, Cecile. I'm still online, I guess. I wasn't muted. So you're talking about the EU registry. So, and I'll just, maybe I can share my screen again. No, I won't do it. I'll just do it orally. Now, I think the use of the CCEV there. Well, if I understood it, you can actually we can actually use the CCEV as well to actually encode or codify, if you would call it this way, the legal obligations that you have, the reporting obligations as well. Not only the greening criteria coming from the eco label, which is also kind of a criteria, but the reporting obligations would also be would be very nice if we could encode this, if not in the CCEV, then at least in something alike. And I think it's very valuable to do so, because this will help us to further streamline the information needs and the evidence basis. And we can also look up the evidence that is gathered by other DGs and other institutions and see if it's reusable at the same time. We do have something similar that already exists for about half of our legislation. That's called the Reporting Obligation Database, which is managed at the European Environmental Agency for the moment. And this allows us to link the legislation to reporting obligations, and from reporting obligations to data flows and data objects. So that is very valuable. So then people can navigate from a data object, which then we can see where it has been reported, in which kind of under which kind of obligation, under which kind of legislation. If it's the same concept, then we can actually reuse it for the policy evaluation later on and for integrated assessments. So that would be a very valuable tool. So the greening criteria is very supportive for other processes like the e-procurement or greening the e-procurement and enforcing our policy as well at the same time. But at the same time, these reporting obligations are also valuable, very valuable from a data reuse and data management perspective. So I hope this more or less answers your question a bit.
Yeah, I think it does. Yuri, can I have a question? Can I ask a question to you, which is, do these criteria change frequently, or they do not?
Thanks for your question, Jose. Now, the criteria, you meaning the greening criteria from the eco label and so? They don't change that regularly, but we have regular new legal acts that are added for new products. So we have the screening criteria. This eco label is put together for a single product, and every time we have a new product that we describe, we put the criteria in the legal act. So they don't change often, but we add regularly add new products that can get an eco label. So that from that perspective, there are some regular updates, and it could be a living vocabulary. And on the other side, no living vocabulary in the sense the ontology, I think the basic ontology will be the same, but it will regularly be updated with new data and new criteria. From a reporting perspective, that's the second use case. We do have updates. We have been aligning reporting obligations, and we regularly have we do have new acts, new initiatives. We now have an initiative on pollinators. We have an initiative on plastic circular economy materials. These are quite recent, and the reporting obligations of some of these legal acts are still in development, and they also could be documented. So it would be a kind of a living vocabulary. Yeah.
My question is because one of the issues we faced in using the CCEV in the procurement was that these criteria had to leave somewhere and had to be shared with all the member states. And the solution for that was ESPD. So I think the CCEV can help you in defining the criteria and even the evidences, but then you will need to have some a central point or somewhere where these can be distributed, shared, and maintained lively, as you suggest somehow.
Okay, thanks Jose. Very interesting, because I assumed that we could actually reuse the CCEV as a kind of a catalog for all our criteria, but now you're saying we should actually put it in the catalog ourselves, do the legal coding, and then they should provide an API to the CCEV that it can be used for the greening of the e-procurement. So.
Can I intervene? In fact, it's an ongoing work that the e-certis becomes multi-domain. So they are in the process of analyzing how to make the change for a multi-domain approach. So I think it's the right moment to give your requirements to make sure that it's good enough.
Okay, and Cecile, an e-certis is a corporate component, or will be developed as a corporate component for all DGs?
Yes, it is now not corporate. It's a DigiGrow product, but for maintenance of these criteria, there is an ongoing project for making it corporate. Yes, and if I will share with you the details.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
Actually, I would also like to jump in here. We also had a question from Emilio in the chat box about where to find this on JoinUp, and these topics are linked. So we have not explained this in the beginning, but we have developed this vocabulary originally as a general purpose vocabulary, which has then had its first application in the domain of e-procurement, where it had some very e-procurement specific extensions. And now we are rediscovering that it really has a lot of applications in various use cases. And one of the purposes of this webinar was really to get those together, to get an impression of requirements and to get started talking with you all, not just the speakers of this webinar, but all of the participants. We will do an update of this vocabulary, and we will figure out how to cater for different use cases. So we all invite you to comment also on that. So at present, you cannot find the version that Enrique has been showing on JoinUp. You will find it on GitHub and the link that I think Natalie posted. You find the original version that we published in ISA on JoinUp, but as you, Emilio, noticed, it is different. And we need to see what to do with this vocabulary, and this is exactly the intention.
Hi, this is Natalie speaking. Can you hear me more clearly now? I've connected by phone. What I wanted to say was the link I gave was to the e-procurement ontology. So therefore you will find the link to, you can find the model of the criterion and the procurement criterion. It is not directly the CCCEV, okay? It is our adaptation, our usage of the CCEV.
Thank you, Natalie.
Can I have a question to Sven? Because in fact I was also, I could not see really how CCCEV was used there. And also in his presentation, he showed that the Oslo was extending the other vocabularies, but not the CCCEV. So I was wondering whether it's a new use case that he wants to make use of them or not.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I didn't show it actually on the picture, but there is an extension in Oslo for the CCCEV. It's called Oslo Bewijs, like the Dutch version for evidence. So it exists, and we are also trying to reuse it, and especially in our use case, we are looking into different ways. We also struggle a bit with what is an evidence. Basically, we have this interoperable model, like the vocabulary, but at instance data level, we have a lot of possibilities in the end. Like you can say, for example, if you provide your national number, then you provided some evidence, but on a higher level, you can provide a form, which is also some evidence. So we are using it therefore, but also have to find how we then can use this in a consistent way, because we also have to think about the end user in the end are the public servants who have possibly then define or populate a data model with data, and there, yeah, we should have also some concrete guidelines, I guess.
Thanks.
I also have a question. This is Thierry from the TOP project. This is mostly, I think, goes to Henrik, or who's going to be the developer of the publication office. I see that you are discussing a lot about structure of the criteria, which is good. We are now doing a revisiting on using the criteria, but I didn't see much discussion on what is the evidence. And this is where we are trying to focus on the once only principle project on top. So if we need to make an extension, or if we need some assistance there, or we have some remarks, how should we do this? What we would like to do, Henrik, is to make the evidence to become more data oriented, not document oriented, not containing just metadata, but also, you know, link to other ontologies that might contain actual information. For example, evidence is information about company data, or the actual specific data that are inside the evidence, like you have paid your taxes. How we could extend this, or should we extend this vocabulary to contain this information?
Yeah, we are currently talking about exactly this very subject with the top. We had a meeting recently. The problem was that until now we haven't had this need of extending the evidence, at least not in the procurement ontology for the moment. We will in the future, very soon, by the way. But then there is another consideration, which is what our evidence is. Is the response to a criterion an evidence in itself or not? That is a consideration that I think the FAST project should face to, which is, well, to what extent we can consider the response of an evidence. And then your question of who is going to evolve this and to maintain this, my answer would be, well, this would be the mission of precisely the ISA² Programme, which is taking in all the new use cases, including the needs of the top, and seeing how to structure this data in the evidence, not only working with documents as we are doing now. Is that response sufficiently complete, or do you need something else? In EPO, we are not tackling that need in the evidence yet, only for the criterion and the response of the criterion.
Well, let me do a follow-up then. Our main focus, as you know, Henrik, is the SDGR, which has procedures, which has requirements, and I think there is also a link between the application profile of the core public services, which uses the CCCEV, and what we're trying to do. So the question here is how we should proceed, because we are getting the feeling in top that this is going to be important. The CCCEV and the application profile of the public core services is going to be important, but they are missing some key elements here, and we would like to help this evolve.
Are you in conversation?
May I? I would really invite you to talk to us directly, and maybe we can organize a meeting also with the people in charge of the CPSV, the Core Public Service Vocabulary and the application profile. So that is a very important topic of its own, and I think it's a bit beyond the scope of what we can do in this webinar, but we would certainly like to follow up on that.
Thank you, Susanne. Okay, let's do that.
I mean, I have your contact and you have mine, so let's be in touch.
But because the SDG has been mentioned, and because we are also working for the SDG project, maybe they should be invited to.
Exactly. So, and of course, all of you are also welcome to participate in this discussion. So, actually, we are approaching kind of the conclusion. You will have the chance to answer one or two more questions, but let me already say that we should definitely have a follow-up on this webinar, and I have two more remarks also. We would like to use the opportunity already to invite you to the SEMIC conference, which is in October in Helsinki. And we have another webinar planned on the 16th of July, which is on the GeoDecade application profile. So I know that some of you are working in various domains. We heard about Inspire and geospatial data also in Yuri's presentation. And you have all our contact details on these slides, and I would definitely suggest that the people present in this webinar, presenting in this webinar, that we get together again and have some follow-up discussions on how to evolve this vocabulary, and I invite all the participants of the discussion of the webinar, if you are interested in following up the discussion and the development of the vocabulary, to remain in touch with us and join the working group for further discussions on the vocabulary. So, last chance. Let's say two more questions, and then we close. If there are none, I see some people are already saying bye in the chat. So we thank you very much for your participation, and we'll send out a follow-up mail with a link to the slides, and eventually we also publish the recording of the webinar. Thank you very much.